Hi, everyone. Thank you. Can I get a quick, since we do this interactively, tell me who's a broadcaster in the room? Any broadcasters? A couple. Device manufacturers? Software vendors? OK, so mixed across all. All right, so I think I've got something for everyone. And although this is in the monetize section, I think I really want to talk about some of the key changes that were taking place and that I see in the space, whether they monetize and how they monetize. We'll dip into that, but let's head off. I think the presentation is going to be in 3 parts. Part 1 is all about it's the television. New interfaces, new ways people connect with the television. Part 2 is it's still TV content, but people are interacting on their phones, creating social around it, and discovering it and playing it out in different places. And part 3 is what I think is going to be the biggest change in the future, which is content is not what we think about as content today, but becomes a much wider set of things. And that creates challenges and opportunities for all the players in the room. So when you go to your TV today, or at least until recently, the television itself was a fairly simple platform. You had underneath it, you had some hardware created by a small set of companies. We see Vestel here, Sony, Samsung, and so on. And there are a small number of companies making the physical hardware. It's beautiful, it's shiny, it's getting larger. And then above that, there's an operating system. The operating system is one of a few proprietary things. It's generally somewhat old-fashioned, it's closed, it's heavily locked down. And above that, you've got a small set of apps and content portals, and the content portals are generally in the form of channels. It's a fairly defined and closed world. But as we get new open TVs and Android TV and plug-in streamers and things like that, that world changes dramatically. And instead of it being these lockdown platforms, you now have everything changing. And starting at the bottom, you still have the same TV manufacturers making the hardware is difficult and expensive, so you're probably still going to be buying the actual same TV. But sitting on top of that, instead of having a proprietary operating system, you'll increasingly have an Android TV, a Linux-based system. And on top of that, the content portals are not just channels, but they'll be apps. The apps sometimes work well together, and sometimes they sit in different universes. And that's going to be one of the big challenges that means you're either going to continue to watch through your TV or start embracing watching through your phone and other things, which we'll get to in a minute. And then moving up the stack as well, the services that you have on your TV might change. Today, the services are things like playing video or maybe listening to the radio. But anything could be a service to take advantage of this wonderful big panel in your room. And as the platforms become open, instead of being just the TV manufacturers who can think of the items to put on the TV, it'll be anybody. Now, TVs have been sort of open since the advent of smart TVs, but if you go to one of the big manufacturers and you want to have an app, there are many weeks of release cycles and it's difficult and so on. All of that is changing slowly with the likes of Roku and the Amazon and others, where it becomes dramatically easier to make your content and your portal appear through the television. And then we get all the way up to the top where we have personalized experiences, and we'll get onto that in a minute, as well as being able to be part of the show. And I think when we look at some of the examples that I've created here, we can think about how our TV today is actually a very solitary, insular lockdown experience, and it needn't be that. So imagine you've got a TV, and the TV pairs with your phone. And as you walk up to your phone, your TV knows it's you, because obviously it's your phone. And it knows the programs you liked. Maybe on your phone it's used audio listening to know the programs. Maybe you've signed in and created an account, and while you're walking around, somebody says, hey, let's watch the show. And you add it to your bookmarks, and as you approach your TV, it goes, hello, Anthony, and it knows you're in front of the TV. And then it creates a channel guide just for you. And if you look here, the first program is on one channel. The second program is on a different channel. And the third program's not on a channel at all, it's on Netflix. So can you, in fact, see the end of the channel guide as we know it, and instead of scrolling through hundreds of channels, you have a personal content discovery system. as someone else, your partner, walks in the room, the TV can know from your Wi-Fi connection or other systems that both of you are in front of it. And in this model, what's happening is the discovery starts happening off the TV, and the TV becomes just the playback system. I think the second question is the TV actually where all the smarts are happening, or is the TV a beautiful but dumb display panel, and it's a 39-pound or 79-pound box that you're plugging into the TV? That's where all the smarts are happening. And I think we only need to look at the explosion of these new devices to make it clear. In order to watch the new episode of Orange is the New Black, I'm not going to buy a new TV and struggle with my wife to carry the old one out the house. I'm going to buy a 39-pound or a 9-pound device, plug it in, and I'm done. So to me, the TV itself is this beautiful panel that you probably won't be changing, and you will be plugging other things into it. The other things that you plug in are going to be the new generation of an Android TV style devices, and they'll let you do all sorts of fun things because the ecosystem from your phone is dramatically more open. Instead of asking Samsung to deploy something on their TV, you could make an app on your phone, for example, that uses detection of adverts, and when there's an ad on a channel, it shows you which ad is playing on which channel, and you can then skip channels, and when the ad goes away, you can go back again. These are the kind of fun things that an app maker could readily do to connect with many of these new type of devices. So the next thing is participation in the show. And today, the TV beams out at millions of people, but you can't be part of the show. I guess you can have an app, and you can a social TV app like Beamly, but imagine if that could link back to the TV, and using the HBB channel or using the channel through your playback box, or going back through an on-screen broadcast playout system to take the audience's aggregate output and feed it back into the signal. And obviously, that's something we're beginning to see now. Today, it's something the broadcasters need to enable, but increasingly, as we have these new smarter boxes, the box will be able to pair with your phone, and your phone interface will be able to appear over the TV channel. And you can play along and see what everyone else is doing. I think the last thing is your television today, you think of it for watching video, but actually, it's this 50 or 60 or 80 soon inch black panel in the wall, and either it's playing something or it's just a black hole in the wall. And as they start becoming more energy efficient and higher definition, why not leave it on all the day? Why is it only for watching video? And so I think that it would be quite interesting that as your phone starts knowing what you like and the articles, your news reader on your phone, shouldn't your TV connect back to that? And through the same feeds that power the apps on your phone, your TV can bring that to life. And as you walk up to it and you see an interesting article, you click play and the TV bursts into life and playing. So the near future is all about your phone and the TV pairing together. But actually, that's all about the technical platform piece. This all assumes you're watching television and you're doing it on your television. You have better ways of connecting, you can be social around it, but it's still kind of what we are used to today. But for the millennial generation, that's all changing. And I think that's where Beamly and social TV and phone playback comes in. To be clear, in this second part, we're still talking about people watching broadly television, but they're engaged in a fun way around it. They're often watching on their phone, and they're watching whenever and wherever they want. We can see the huge growth in user-created content year on year, at 50% year on year. Things have to be changing in the very near future. We can also see, aiming at a millennial audience, I guess the tone of the presentation, the slides have changed from serious platformy stuff to people writing emojis and talking about things. And that's the millennial generation. They may still love the same programming, but they may think, I don't watch TV. They're just watching it in the context of a social network, an app on their phone. The trick for a broadcaster and the challenge for them is to now reinvent, in my view, what is television, to say, we're not a broadcast in that we have a channel, we're a broadcast in that we have great content and a big audience. And how do we reinvent ourselves to connect with this new audience who may never watch it on TV, who may never want to go to a linear program guide, but still love the same great shows. So at Beamly, we started off as ZBox, and we started off as a new type of social discovery TV guide. And we found that people loved it, but they were typically male geeks, kind of like me, and they didn't tell their friends. So we had a passionate audience satisfying, I guess, what was the first part of this presentation, which is social content discovery. But then we morphed the proposition, made it much younger, made it much more alive around programming, whether you were ever in front of your TV or not, and let you create fun ways of communicating, interacting around the show before, during, and after it was on air. And when we did that, the traffic really took off. So at 10 million monthly users and an excellent engagement rate, thanks to the new things we've been doing, for that new audience, it's taken off very nicely. So Beamly platform is available on a number of devices. This is not about Beamly, this is about the changes in the space. But you can also see that many of the things are more frivolous, I guess, aiming at a younger generation, the ways that people want to interact, share, connect, and make it very easy while you're watching, perhaps on your TV, perhaps on your phone, to go, smiley, I love this, or check this out, or here's an image of that. And playing on that, you can then tap into the large number of people who want to consume, the smaller number who want to say something short and interesting and funny, and the much smaller at the top of the pyramid, people who really want to say more deep, profound, and longer things around it. So one of the key things, of course, being the monetized session is in this new changing world, as people start consuming, not just on their television, but on social networks and in other places, what advertising opportunities and monetization opportunities, and for a broadcaster, are you going to be able to sell as many ads on your TV, or will the advertisers start putting their money elsewhere? Will they start putting the money towards Facebook pages? Will they start putting it in the second screen where you are interacting? Will they, for example, buy these new types of synchronized ads? So through new ad platforms, which now know that there's an ad on television, you can buy an ad on any site that's plugged into one of the ad exchanges. And miraculously, if that ad is on TV, your ad is more likely to be shown to a user who's on a Wi-Fi connection that may be in front of the TV. And other much more targeted systems are possible. And in that world, advertisers are starting to explore how instead of just serving an untargeted, non-clickable, non-interactive, non-measurable ad to some millions of people that they have to book a while beforehand, individuals can get the ad tailored exactly for them. So I think we're going to see advertisers moving increasingly quickly to embrace the new medium. I think that clearly those audiences are much smaller today than television. On the other hand, you can do new types of targeting that may attract all new advertisers, and I think Sky are seeing a lot of success there, that people who would not otherwise get on television because of the cost and distribution of making an ad that has to reach many people can now advertise around a show. And you can see a lot more fun and games as well. Which then takes me to really the third part, and I think the most significant. It's not just about the changing platforms and technology. That is inevitable. It's as inexorable as Moore's Law. We'll all have fancier displays and bigger TVs and the next-gen interfaces when we go outside. But I think what's going to be the biggest disruptor is what we define as content. And let me try and show you on a sort of slightly less sexy set of slides. Once upon a time, there was just broadcast. Broadcasters made content or bought content and streamed it over their channels. And then they made their own video-on-demand players, and you can watch it and so on, but it was still their content. And that was off at the one end of the spectrum. And completely the other end of the spectrum was YouTube, which had millions of videos, the so-called cat on skateboard, and also some scat on skateboard. But of course, broadcasters saw no threat from YouTube because it was user-generated, buffered, low resolution, low quality. And of course, that's changed. So the distribution problem has rapidly changed, and you can get higher def on the internet, usually than your television. And then entrants came along. YouTube looked to see, can we get into carrying broadcast content? And the space got slightly more complicated. But I think the key things that I'm seeing most recently are the arrival of new services that say it's not just, on the one hand, about premium broadcaster content or poorer quality, lower budget user content. There's a space for premium, independent, or professional content. And I think two sites jump to mind. One is Vessel, a new venture by the people behind Hulu, that you can get the app now. It's all about professional content in a great interface. It's not trying to be a YouTube, but it is independent and user-generated content that has been selected. And this could be, if the content is great, the jury might be out on it, this could be your new TV experience. That it's short, as people have shorter attention spans, it's nicely curated, it plays nicely, and it's got the social pieces around it. You can also look at something like Vivo, which is all about music videos. And music videos, I think, takes me to the next piece, which is, what is the content? And sitting down in the right-hand corner is Twitch TV. Now, if you don't know Twitch, who here knows Twitch TV? Actually, surprisingly few. You should check out Twitch TV, because if you don't know it, you may be missing a big trick. So Twitch TV was something that was almost unknown until Amazon bought them for about $1 billion, about a year and a bit ago. And what it is, it's a video of people playing video games with narration. Often they're quite good at playing games, and they're from tournaments and so on. And you wouldn't think that you would ever want to watch a video of people playing video games. Makes no sense. I first discovered my fellow passenger on a plane watching this, and I thought he was playing with his, thought control, but in fact he was just watching. Turns out Twitch TV has something like 100 million monthly visitors. And I think this, to me, is going to be the biggest disruptor. The thing that you did not think was programming as we know it is actually hugely enjoyable by large numbers of people. And that may well be the thing that gets broadcasters to have to rethink. It's not just the threat of people taking their video content and putting it in other portals to play it on demand. It's whole new types of programming that they didn't think about. So I think broadcasters then thought, okay, great, all this video on demand activity on the internet, our preserve, our home domain of broadcast live is still there. Until we start seeing the arrival of things like Periscope and Meerkat, the new live streaming apps. Now, they're very experimental. It's not going to change the world overnight. But I've been quite surprised, as when you start talking to your geek, gadgety friends, of course, they're all over the latest technology. But when you start talking to the organizers of your building, and they're busy organizing a live Periscope streaming event, or a doctor is planning something with some patients and so on, you realize that things often move quite quickly. And no one has to buy a new TV. You download a new app in seconds, and you can be the broadcaster. Now, it turns out, of course, as soon as you can be the broadcaster, it becomes quite obvious broadcasters are a bit better than you, and most of the videos on Periscope are of people broadcasting from a taxi or showing the contents of their fridge or walking along a parking lot, which is not riveting viewing. However, in the same way that YouTube started with user-generated, lower resolution, lower quality, and it then led to the premium independence, it's without a doubt that the same is going to happen with live video. And you don't need to go to Ofcom, you don't need to go to Freeview. There will be an app, and you can be up and running in about 60 seconds, and maybe some decent lighting after that. And in that space, you'll start seeing things like Livestream, which is out, a venture that I'm involved with called QJam, which lets music artists stream to their fans. And here, everyone becomes the broadcaster. So with that, in fact, almost exactly on time, I will wrap up to say we're obviously going to see evolution in TV platform and technology. If you are the broadcaster, the platform maker, or the software vendor, then I think it's incumbent on you to look at how these things may be opportunities for you. If you sell software tools that enhance video, that add overlays, that let you crop and so on, maybe your future audience isn't just broadcasters, it's the new millions of people who may be creating content themselves, not just to put on a YouTube site, but to live stream or put into premium sites. And you may find that in the space between high-end tools for a few customers and millions of people who previously had paid nothing, somewhere in between, there are hundreds of thousands of people who will pay small amounts. Conversely, if you're a broadcaster and you're not getting into that area, you may find yourself with a smaller and smaller garden of people watching your slightly more sidelined content. So I hope that was useful. Thank you very much.